Okay, I am live, I suppose, which is great. Okay, welcome back to the second episode of whatever the heck I called this. Uh 15 and 24, all of 30s. So I did previously go try to record this with a mic that I forgot I had yesterday. Not because I don't love it, but because I have a lot of things going on. Um, and I did just try to connect it. However, there was some tech issues, so I just decided I'll figure that out later because I'm kind of in a time crunch today. So let's see. What is there to talk about today? Um, I think one of the big things that I would like to do these first few weeks on this is to really start thinking and reflecting on things in my 20s. A lot of people say that 20s is when you're like a lot of people will say that you're going into your 20s, you're going to have to learn a lot about who you are, and it's about experimenting, whereas your 30s is when you start to get serious and you're like, oh no, this is like planning for the future. Um I feel like I definitely had a good 20s experience. However, it wasn't I don't think I had what a lot of other people my age and my demographic get, which is, most people go like I went to college and everything like that, but I worked a lot too. Like I went to a community college first, and then I worked throughout community college. I was a server and a bartender for years, and I was also like working in schools and youth theater programs, working on that. So while I was a student in college, I feel like a lot of people like got to go off to a 4-year college or whatever, and I feel like I kind of started working immediately. I feel like that's what most people who go to community college experience, is after college or after high school, you're working and you go to community college, or maybe not after high school. A lot of people of a lot of different ages go to different colleges or community college at different ages, whereas 4-year institutions are a little bit of a different story. Anyway, so yeah, I'm talking about life lessons that I have learned in my 20s. um it's kind of hard to differentiate between what was a lesson that I learned specifically from my 20s, and then what just applies to general life and when did I learn about it. I'm trying to think of what kind of things did I guess the first thing that really pops into my mind is a huge thing that I experienced in my 20s, um, was just how much adults don't really like each other. It's funny because like as kids, we do not have to worry too much about, the greater picture. We don't think too much about politics. We don't think too much about certain moral issues that I feel like once we get into our 20s and we start becoming adults and people that have to provide for ourselves, that's when that really starts kicking in. I have I have a lot of friends that I'm still friends with from the high school days, or just I have a lot of friends. I'm not gonna lie. I have friends all over, and but one thing that I noticed is very early on, especially when we start becoming involved with like adult things and discussions, is that people tend to want to find enemies, whereas kids don't. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at being a kid with rose-colored glasses, but a huge component of going into my 20s was experiencing people starting to dislike each other. I had two best friends growing up. I'll keep their names silent for now, but if they watch this, they know who I'm talking about. And they dated. They dated for 5 years going through high school. They were one of the best, and I was friends with both of them just as equally as much. And then they started going into college, and then they broke up, and I was very upset about it. And then they started, going off and becoming who they were. And one became much more entrepreneurial, conservative. very, very business oriented, wanting to, do good work in uh, in a professional field. And the other one was much more liberal minded, going in a completely opposite political direction, but still, you know, they were the same people, but as they grew up, they became much more rigid about who they wanted to have in their lives. And so one of the things that I've noticed that people tend to do going through their 20s is they kind of cut out the fat of like, who should I interact with? Who should I be friends with? And that has put me in a lot of different situations. And that this is not just an example of my friends there, but just everyone in general. Like my family, I come from a conservative family. Like both my parents are very Republican, and I was also doing a lot of theater growing up, and that's a very liberal community. And one of the things that I constantly had to deal with was talking to my family about, people in the theater and how, they're not as bad as you think they are. You just don't know them. And then I'd go to rehearsals and I'd hear everyone like, talking about like, I mean, not directly talking about my folks, but just the, so like, I feel like I had to keep it a secret or something like that. And so that was just kind of, I guess what I'm trying to say is that one of the lessons that I learned and that I stick to is that the world is never going to be a place where everyone agrees on something, no matter what time period we're in, no matter what country we're in. Um, and I also say that from traveling around to different countries quite a lot, is that no matter what you do, there is going to be people who just don't want to get along with each other. Um, and one of the things that I feel like I have to almost lead a double life. If someone asks me about specific things, I'm pretty forthcoming about it, but I know when not to bring things up in mixed company. I worked for a libertarian organization called Young Americans for Liberty for it was a good group of people. I had friends there. I was never really too. I guess I do vibe with libertarian ideas. But I also see the downside to libertarianism. I see the downside to when people are not being controlled. That freedom makes people do terrible things sometimes. And I feel like when I was doing my undergrad at Plymouth State University in New Hampshire, that immediately, no, I wouldn't call it. I wasn't targeted. Like that's a stupid way of thinking about it. It was. I definitely was not received as well anymore. So long story short is that, I'm kind of just, it's a good thing I just rant about these things because I don't plan these things before I start talking about them. I'm just talking about life lessons that I learned in this episode. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, is that, I feel like people don't get along, and I find that to be very tragic. I find that people should enjoy each other's company and not look people would rather look for reasons to dislike each other before looking for the reasons that they should get along. And that really bothers the heck out of me. Yeah, let's see what else is there. uh I feel like I definitely accomplished a lot in my 20s. Like I'm a person, I mean, I'm starting this blog, turning 30, and then I had to video blog every single day for the next 10 years. And no, that's totally fine. I'm very excited for it, but I'm someone who definitely likes to, make things more significant than they sometimes are. Um, a lot of people can tell you what the definition of art is, and I tend to have it's not really my own definition, but it's an idea that I have that, art is not just an object. Art is being able to see more in something than there might actually be. And so I do that with date significance and everything like that. I like to make reasons for something to be important to me. So when I definitely had a lot of goals that I wanted to hit when I was before my 20s were done, and I feel like I hit them all. Like I had financial goals that I hit. I had career goals that I hit. I remember when I first got into my 20s, I really wanted to be a teacher. Um, but I also wanted to be a cartoonist and I wanted to do theater. I knew what I liked. And now the question was, how do I do everything that I'm very curious about and how do I try things out? And then going into my 30s, it's like, okay, I learned everything and now it's time to, work on them and develop them into something that I can make a living off of. Uh, but I got to travel. I taught in Beijing, China for about a year and a half, and that was tons of fun. I only had to leave because of COVID. I did tons and tons of theater. I wrote things, I directed things, I produced things, and I even turned one of those things into a cartoon. Uh, so yeah, there was a lot of goals that I had going to my 20s, and I feel like I hit them all. And now in my 30s, the idea is to make them into something that is lucrative, something that I can make a living off of, and push forward with that. So that is, um, oh my god, no one's watching. It's okay. It's okay. It doesn't matter because it's just me. This is for me, not you. And it's just, I don't know. I'm kind of like watching myself, and I started thinking about, man, what's this guy talking about? But I know what he's talking about because he's me. I'm just having a conversation with you, John, and you are, what, you're pretty cool, John. I like you. I think you're very relaxed. I think you're easy to get along with, um, and you're motivated. Uh, so no matter what happens, John, I'm with you. You're not gonna get rid of me. I'll be here till the end. Doesn't matter who's watching because as long as I got you and you got me, we're gonna be fine. Um, One of the things that I did in my undergrad was I definitely went through a period where I was really struggling with the meaning of life, and that definitely affected my mental well being. I suppose you can say. I mean, it was a kind of. I mean, there was external sources of that kind of disparity um, throughout for a lot of different reasons in that time, but I feel like I really came to the I haven't really thought like I used to do church hopping. I would go to different churches and I would learn a little bit about, you know, what do they believe in? What is the answer to this whole life thing? And one of the things that I found, to my disappointment was, while I could go into any church or synagogue or temple or whatever it was, everyone there based everything on their life about that answer. And every single one of those buildings was filled with people who just had this absolute faith that what they believed in was true. And this is what we need to do with our time on this earth. And one of the hardest things about that was, if all of them say they're right, does that mean they're all right or does that mean they're all wrong? Maybe one person's right, maybe the rest of them are wrong. I don't know what the answer is. But it really got me thinking about life and like, what is it? What is the meaning? What is our purpose here? And what should I do with myself? And that kind of put me in a rabbit hole where I'm like, I know what I enjoy doing, but like, what's the point? And I came to the conclusion that life is meaningless. And trust me, I'm still in the mindset where like, if you I like going to church, I like going to religious events. If anyone has any recommendations, I would love to go check something out. But I want nothing more than someone to prove to me that a religion is accurate. I want nothing more than to believe that there is more to existence than just humans just walking around this earth and bumping into things and reproducing and eating. Um, but that's kind of what I feel. And until I get that answer, I feel like I have to make my own meaning. And so I have assigned meaning to my life to tell stories and to communicate. I think at the end of the day, the most important thing in my life is communication. And it helps when you're artistically inclined enough to be able to captivate your audience too, which is why I started my own company, Communication by Captivation. We're just another theater group. We're just another animation group. But you know, like people say, like, why are you doing what you're doing? And the answer is in the title. I I think that we have a limited amount of time on this planet, and the best thing to do is to communicate with each other while captivating each other. That is my life's mission. So yeah. Anyway, 3, 2, 1. See you tomorrow.